Hello. Today's episode number 92 of the Professor Slots podcast discusses more on casino reopenings in Oklahoma, Washington, and Wisconsin. Plus, in this episode, I'll be covering the current state of slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. state of New York. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedel, and this is the podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. In case you missed it, on my last episode, I went over casino reopening updates from my weekly live stream Q&A session on YouTube. Every week has been a little bit different, so it's been quite a ride. Further, I reviewed New Mexico slot machine casino gambling in 2020. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Here's the audio recording of my latest live Q&A session. Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? It's great to hang out with you again on another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. Today, we're diving into the latest in casino reopenings in the states of Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Washington. But I'll do a tour of the country, as it were, recent live streams. In the recent live streams, we've talked about the reopenings at tribal casinos in Oklahoma. We have more to talk about them, but this week casinos have also reopened in Wisconsin and the state of Washington. Are their slots tight, loose, or first loose, then tight after opening each day, as we've seen at many Oklahoma tribal casinos? Well, we'll know what's what thanks to casino reports from members of our state-by-state slots communities on Facebook. That's coming up. But first, if you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello in the live chat and let us know where you are at or where you play slots. Those of you that are here often know about that, but we always have new and more people, which is great. We're growing, and that's what we would like you to do, to introduce yourself just a bit. I'll check in with the live chat in a few minutes. I was monitoring it before we went live, and it was great to see how many people were there. But in the meantime, feel free to talk amongst yourselves, and as usual, ask your slots-related questions. I'll answer those before the end of the show. Thanks again for joining us today, whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream. I'm glad you're all here. As I've mentioned in the past, we've been getting great casino reports in our private Facebook communities for states where casinos are reopening. If you aren't in a state with reopened casinos, get a jump on knowing what's going on there by joining your state's group. There, you can keep an eye on what others are hearing and doing at their local casinos, at your local casinos. There's lots of good information there, which isn't easy to find anywhere else. For example, members share direct emails from their casino's players clubs about reopening plans such as soft openings, invite-onlys, hours, safety restrictions, and more. I'm sure we've even got some reports of permanently closed casinos. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure you're a member of your casino's player club and already get those emails, but what about casinos a little further away where you aren't yet a member? And what if your casino hasn't opened yet, but that one has? Well, here's how you find out details of your less frequented casinos from slots enthusiasts just like yourself. And please share your own information from your local casinos for all the other members of your group. So find your state's private slots community at professorslots.com/FB and join now. You need to be approved, but I will approve people after I'm done with the live stream. So I dropped into the chat here the link for the list of to each state, and also Professor Slots enthusiasts, kind of like all states slots community, and they're all private and of course free. But I haven't. All right. So these live streams are also meant to build community between us slots enthusiasts, and I certainly include myself in that group. But it's kind of that this community is for everyone as well. And I've been trying to offer these live streams every week. I've so far been successful 27 times. So that's last week would have been marked 6 months of weekly shows where I pick a topic and we talk about it. It's something that seems relevant to everybody. And lately, it's been a lot of good information coming out of the slots community, and I try to update people once a week. But if you're in that state, and I don't mean to harp on this, but if you're in that state where casinos are reopenings, waiting until a Saturday afternoon to get the update for the week is a bit late, and you might want to check daily, that sort of thing. Okay, so one of the things I haven't been doing, and I probably should, is I haven't really been introducing myself. So I'll do that. Hi, my name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around and wondered what's going on with slots, I can help. I recognize that in the U.S., where I'm located, this is a holiday weekend, and attendance to today's show may be a bit low. We'll see how it goes. But as always, it'll be available later for viewing on YouTube, and tomorrow night around 7 p.m. Eastern Time for listening on my podcast called Professor Slots, available wherever you find podcasts. Finally, I should also mention that I have a website. It's surprising to me how many people don't know that, but I have a website with many helpful articles on casino slots. That's at professorslots.com. There you'll find my winning slot strategies, weekly state-by-state reviews of their slots industry in that state, or territory, or the federal district, casino reviews, those that I've been to in the local area, and whenever I travel, I've been trying to do more of those as I spread myself out over the country a little bit, and a whole lot more that's freely available. Too often, I don't mention all of this free content is available to help you improve your slots gambling performance, mostly because I'm trying to grow community here, but I should mention at least every few videos what's going on, what's available for you. So it's more than just answering my questions. You can find all kinds of articles on specific topics, money management, and just a whole lot more. So I haven't covered everything yet. There's just so much to write about, and so much to record, and either for the podcast or for the live stream, or even recorded videos put up on YouTube. But if you have a question or want to discuss a topic I haven't already covered, or you want more detail, comment on this video in YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast, just shoot me an email at john@professorslots.com, where John is spelled Jon. Let me see if I will drop that into the live chat as well. I see stuff going on in the live chat, and I'm trying not to let myself get distracted by that like I have in the past. I'll come back to you guys in just a second. Finally, if you need any help with any specific needs, I also have limited time slots available each week for personal consultation. An inexpensive 50-minute consultation is available at professorslots.com/consult. And all these links, and there's a few more coming up on the tracker from the American Gaming Association stuff, but I'll make these available in the video for listening later in the live chat now, and also in the show notes for the podcast. So you shouldn't be, if you can either just back up a little bit and listen to it again, or you'll find them written down somewhere in the descriptions, various places for this. So I've mentioned all these options to my Professor Slots content, Slots Communities podcast, website, and more, because recent feedback I've gotten from my audiences is that, well, I don't mention it enough. And I'm not going to blast you with this all the time, but maybe you don't know about it. You mean, the comments I get are basically, you mean I have useful slots information elsewhere and I haven't told you about it? Well, yes, I do. So for instance, many members of my slots communities aren't aware I have a website with lots of slots articles, much less a book available on Amazon. Did I mention the book? I have mentioned the book here before, but it's called Learning to Win. I hope that captures it. It's available on Amazon as a softcover paperback, not paperback, softcover it's called. And also as an ebook, and I'm working on an audiobook. It takes some while to get it through. Apparently everybody's doing it right now. So it's called Learning to Win, How to Make a Profit at Slot Machine Gambling. It looks like I showed you, and it's also available, as I said, as an ebook. Anyway, we should move forward, and let's see what's going on in the live chat within the live stream. Oh my, that's lots of comments. Chip has a question. I'm going to say hello to everybody, Chip, and then I'll come back to your question. I promise this time. I know one time I didn't do that before, but I promise I'll come back to it. Let's see. But hello, Chip. Hello, Joe. Joe's in California. Paula is here. She's from my hometown, Flint, and family. And feel free to talk much yourselves about tea. I didn't mean to be harsh last week if I was harsh about talking about non-slots. Become friends, talk about stuff. But and maybe occasionally I'll talk about how much I like chocolate too. So let's see. Lois and Dave are also here. They're currently in Ontario. They spend about half the year in Florida. Again, family friends. Let's see. Denise is here. She lives in Texas, plays in Oklahoma. She is what was a Facebook badge that you got, Denise? Something about conversation starter. That's right. On the Oklahoma slots community. Scott is here from Ozark, Missouri, near Springfield. Scott, thank you so much, Scott, because I hate to get 15 minutes in and forget I pushed a button. Thank you. He says the video and the sound is good. Actually, I've been working on that a little bit. You might have noticed the headset's gone, but I can still hear things. I'm just trying to make slow improvements, just make things better. Yeah, thank you, Chuck, for the good audio. I think it wasn't so much last time. It's hard to do anything about it once you upload it to YouTube. There's nothing you can really do. I can fix it in the podcast, but do some renormalizing. But got some adjustments going on here, and that's always a little bit technical work to take it the next step up. But thank you, Leslie from Oregon. Your name in YouTube is Leslie from Oregon. That's efficient. So Oregon has seven feathers. This is so Leslie is going to say something which is one type of comment that we get in our slots communities. And I'll read it to you so you understand kind of the feedback that we're getting, and, might want to consider joining your states to get this sort of feedback. So Leslie from Oregon says, ours, that is this, their casino, Seven Feathers, is requiring masks and valid ID. No bingo, though. The spa is open by appointment only, and so is the pool. All right. They're only open from 7 to 2:30 a.m. They are not 24 hours yet. This is, great information. We have other comments that people make that talk about, I went, and this was what it was kind of like inside the casino. Maybe the lines were long, or, little comments about, I can't sit down with my friend at another slot machine because they'll come along and tell me to move along because I need to bet. Stuff like that, and it's not every casino that does that, but it's a sort of, man on the ground, boots on the ground, woman on the ground, they're there. And they're commenting about what it's like. And it's like I said, it's real hard to get this sort of information anywhere else. So Leslie says other casinos in Oregon are opening up too. Don't know all details for others. Thank you. If everyone does their part, as you have, particularly in the Oregon slots community, we're doing great. So Frank says, hi, Frank. Frankie G here from New York. Thanks for the good info. You're welcome. I just want to make sure everybody has aware of where everything is. For me, my website is home base. Everything is there except the live video. I want the live video. It's only good for until the next live video. Does that make sense? It's not the website is meant for evergreen content, if you know the terminology about having a website. Hi, Steve. Steve is in Wisconsin. Welcome. Let's see. Dean is in Nevada, and he jumps right in. Nevada Governor Sisolak sets target date of June 4th for reopening gaming industry in Nevada. Wow. There's so much to say about that. It's really so much to say about that. Catherine's here. Hello, Catherine. She's in Washington. Now, I always know that I misspeak this casino name. Ilani. Too many vowels. Sorry. Alani. And Alani opens on the 28th. So a few more days. Catherine says it's a great book. She got hers from Amazon. And thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. Lois, Lois and Dave know that I'm working on an audiobook. There was a lot of removal of sort of sounds. And once I removed 150 of those, I dropped the noise for technical things. The podcast can have a few bumps and some other things, but the audiobook has just got to be really cleaned up. And it is 7 hours, 58 minutes and 40 seconds long. So there's a bit to go through. And with the pandemic, everybody's making audio versions of their own books. So the queue is like a month long. Probably not within the month. What other questions you might have would be, how much would it be? I don't get to determine that. It's usually roughly determined by the length. And since mine is just about 8 hours, should be about the same price as the cover, the soft cover and the ebook. When I know more, I will let you know. I just don't want to get people too hyped too fast, and then they sort of lose interest after a month and a half. So I'll once I know exactly the date, then we'll do a proper launch. So Dave is here. He's from Oregon also, and he went to one of their open casinos, Chinook Winds on the coast. Mask required, temperature check at the door, no smoking. That's unusual, right? And no table games open. Okay. Dave says he only saw 3 hand pays, all in high stakes. Which state are you in, Dave? I don't think you mentioned it earlier. Trying to remember. Sorry, you just said. Yes, Dave in Oregon only saw 3 hand pays, and they were all in the high stakes area. See, this is the sort of thing you look at that and you say, and in his opinion, slots seemed about average to him. So, all right. And Catherine's in Oregon, but Alani, and I'm probably pronouncing that terribly, is 20 minutes away from her. Okay. Scott says, okay. So Scott says he went to a soft open at Downstream in northeast Oklahoma. He didn't go. His friend went, and his friend said it was not full and not many bells and whistles going off. He goes enough. He was disappointed. All right. And Dave from Oregon says, my casino host called and said Alani is having a soft opening for VIPs on the 26th and 27th. Yeah, I just got a message from, I shouldn't say message, a comment on one of the Facebook groups. I think it was Professor Slots Enthusiast, who was saying, hey, how do I get invited to an invite only situation? And I basically said, I believe you have to be pretty high tier. Or potentially, if you know someone who's high tier and got the invite, I'm pretty sure these things are guest +1, and you could be +1 to somebody if they don't have a friend to go with, right? So I've taken +1s to some events. I took my sister to a 3-day a 3-night, 4-day trip to Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and gave her my companion card. I was 7 stars at the time, and gave her my companion card, and she never experienced anything like that before. She loves Las Vegas, but never stayed on the Strip, and much less all the comps, all the comps on your, your annual trip that they give you for 7 stars, or did back in a couple of years ago now. So Paula says, I wonder what happens if it's my turn for a temperature check and I have a hot flash. Maybe a little personal, Paula. Right. What if you have a negative? See, that's some of the stuff that's sort of coming up in discussions on the slots communities. I'll mention a security guard that found out to have it, and he was the entrance security guard, and some of the things that sort of happened after that. Some of the comments, we'll get into that. Slot Machine Wins by Chico. Hello, I'm from New Mexico and went to PHX, Phoenix area, and won $6,200 at 4 casinos. 2 jackpot hand pays casinos seem to be paying out just normal. Thank you for letting us know about the New Mexico casinos. Of course, everybody here knows, you may have won $6,200 in 4 casinos, but how much did you take home? Right? Because $10,000, you spent $10,000 and won $6,200. It's just one of those things that we ask about. I try to tell people right from the beginning, it's not revenue, it's not winnings, it's profit. Yes, Paula, I'm laughing. That was funny, what you said. So I will come back to the live chat in a little bit, and because there's quite a bit more to say. I have had live streams where it was entirely questions, and we'll do that again. But I'm trying to service more people. And I will check in momentarily. Richard is here from Western North Carolina. He got in under the wire there, Richard. So, as I've mentioned, today's topic of interest is casino reopenings. According to the helpful casino tracker from the American Gaming Association, and in case you don't have that link, even I had trouble remembering kind of like this long link, which I will drop in the chat. If you're listening to this later, watching this later, or listening to this later, I made an easy to remember, convenient, short URL link to that tool. And as I often do this for other things, professorslots.com/tracker. professorslots.com/tracker, and it'll take you directly to the American Gaming Association, down in the research group into their casino tracker. But it says that today there are 162 casino properties that have reopened, and 827 have closed. Now, I'm going to double check that for just a second, because when I went through thoroughly a casino tracker, that was about 2.5 hours ago. So just now I said 162 casino properties have reopened and 827 remained. Well, in the last 2 hours, 2 have opened. So now 164 casino properties have reopened. And it's a fairly live tool. I haven't found too many issues with it. We'll talk about one in Nebraska shortly, but I don't know that's necessarily that the tool's wrong so much as something else. And we'll get into that. I'll mention it in a moment. I hate to put that off, but I don't want to be too distracted. We'll come to it. So in case you're listening to this later, as I said, I have created professorslots.com/tracker to take you directly to that tool. Basically, it's a map. It gives you 2 numbers on the current status, how many closed, how many open. And then there's a map that they put together, interactive map that you can zoom in on of the United States. And beneath it are some codes. So on this map, it shows open casinos in teal, little symbol, little icon. It's a type of blue, and the closed casinos are in red. Now, to distinguish between commercial casinos and and tribal casinos, the commercial casinos are square icons. If they're open, they're blue. If they're closed, they're red. And the tribal casinos are circular icons. Again, open, blue, closed, red. Now, you can zoom in and also pan on the map, and I'll let you figure out how to do that. If you go to professorslots.com/tracker, you'll find that. So I'm going to go over this. I think I'll check the live chat. I see a bunch of comments. Let's see here. So Slot Machine Wins by Chico said, took home all of it. Took 5K and went home with... all right. Well, sounds like you must have won non-taxable jackpots to be able to accomplish that. Slot Machine Wins by Chico. He says, a kind of why I said one. A win is what I go home with, not just what I hit. Great. So the 6,400 or 6,200 is not just hand pays, but also non-taxable jackpots. Because that's what you just said, right? In any case, one of the things and we're coming back to that comment I want to make about Nebraska, but I'm putting it off. Definitions are very important. What do you mean by a word? And I appreciate you telling us what a win means to you. Thank you. I have the same problem with payout returns. I consider them two different things. Payout, I would say, is theoretical and sometimes a law, and returns are the return statistics that are reported. And if you're a finance person, I would call that actuals. Definitions are important, so we know what we're talking about. That's why I have an article on definitions. In any case, let's see, what else did he say? He or she. So Steve says, nice job. And are you a professional gambler or just lucky? Give us some tips. Be aware, Steve, that's what he's looking for, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, moving on to what we're here to talk about. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves. When I zoom in on the map and pan on the map, it looks like almost half the tribal casinos in the state are open. Right. Okay. I won't do anything about Slot Machine Wins by Chico. I hope you're here to listen and not capture audience from me, because that would be rude. Anyway, moving on. As we go, everybody, we're going to get all kinds of people. Right. So when I zoom and pan in the map, it looks like almost half the tribal casinos in Washington are open. And some are still closed. Some that are still closed are most of the tribal casinos along the coast. And those near Seattle, which, makes perfect sense given it was such an epicenter. For Oregon, 3 tribal casinos along the coast have reopened, but the other 9 or so tribal casinos further in haven't reopened. Around 7 tribal casinos have reopened in California. Now, this is the tour of the country I was telling you about. 7 tribal casinos have reopened in California, all east and south of Los Angeles, but also north and near or north San Diego. There's a second highest number of casinos in U.S. states is in California. So to have 7 open out of, nearly 70, that's pretty Well, I guess they're getting started. Another half dozen casinos in Arizona have reopened. About a quarter of all their casinos. About 30 tribal casinos are open in Oklahoma. That's the biggest number so far, which is similar to Arizona in that they too have only 25% of their casinos open. So Oklahoma has about 25% open, according to this map this morning. Louisiana shows most of their tribal and commercial casinos have reopened, with about a half dozen still closed. By the way, I got a note from Brian, a comment in one of the slots communities from Brian about Louisiana, that if you know Diamond Jacks in Boise City, my French, has permanently closed. I understood it wasn't a very impressive casino, but that's just what I was told, and I don't actually know. I hadn't been there, and looks like I won't ever be now. Mississippi and Kansas show a half dozen commercial casinos open along the Mississippi River between them, but it's hard to tell which casinos are on the east or west side of the river. Okay, I won't do anything. Slot Machine Wins by Chico. Hi. Please understand that the live chat is not going to be available to anyone other than the 11 people currently on here. It would be to your benefit not to share any links if you want to stay. But again, no harm done. Just a few of us here. Nobody will see it later. Still, I don't have a good feeling. If you wanted to work together, it won't be possible now. Right. Mississippi and Kansas show a half dozen commercial casinos open along the Mississippi River. Now, if you zoom in enough on the map, you can begin to tell which one's on which side of the river. It is hard to tell which casinos are on the east or west side of the river, so which state they're in. So it looks like there's roughly half-ish, it looks like. Florida is showing 2 open casinos. One is the Seminole Hard Rock in Tampa, and I have to work on this one. Nicosacky Resort and Gaming Center in Miami. But as I happen to know, that has only Class 2 bingo-style slot machines. In North Carolina, Harrah's Cherokee Valley River in Murphy is open, and is the very popular Harrah's Cherokee in Cherokee. I got a little confused by the map because there's a bingo hall right next to, just about on top of Harrah's Cherokee, and you couldn't see the blue under the red, right? The blue of Harrah's Cherokee being open and the red of the bingo hall on top of it being closed. So make sure you zoom in enough to see which casino is which when they're very close together physically. Anyway, I don't mean to tell you how to use a map, Google Map, but moving upward in the map, we're down in North Carolina, moving up from Florida. We're going to head on up to New England. I'm trying to remember from living there. Is New York one of the New England colonies? In any case, the only blue I can find in that whole region was in Western New York, Lakeside Entertainment. And that's the only one anywhere near there. So as much as, the Midwest has been having reopened casinos, here in, like in Ohio, I don't have a hope of it. There might be something in Michigan, but there's restrictions that I have to work with my day job about traveling, even personally. Automatic quarantine. It's just, there's restrictions on my travel, but there's people in all of New England, with the possible exception of Western New York, who don't have an open casino. And so we are living vicariously through others, through our slots communities for that sort of thing. So sliding over to Michigan, there are currently 3 open tribal casinos, but they're all in the Upper Peninsula. And this is, I'll make it this point later, but this is just what the map is showing now, not necessarily this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow, next week. And so there's 3 open casinos. They're all in the Upper Peninsula. They're hard to reach if you're in the lower part of Michigan, but they're relatively easy to reach if you're in northern Wisconsin. So we're seeing activity on the Wisconsin slots community by people who are going to the Upper Peninsula, some of them just across the border in Michigan, and talking a bit about those casinos. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Wisconsin in a moment because it looks like they're imminent on some of their casinos opening up. So back to the map, it shows open casinos in Nebraska. Now, the map does not show open casinos in Nebraska yet. Our slots community for Nebraska says that they, actually it was another casino where they talked about it, another slots community that talked about it, not Nebraska. They said that they went to 2 casinos that had opened in Nebraska. And so I think this is a gaming regulations issue, a state gaming regulations issue. Nebraska is kind of tricky with their gaming regulations. They're just different. Different is not necessarily bad, but different is different. So we don't need to go deep into this. I have an article on it, but professorslots.com/NE for Nebraska. But all gambling is prohibited in Nebraska. All right. All gambling is prohibited in Nebraska, except for poker and other table games and a few other things. I think slots are actually not allowed, but plenty of what any other state would call gambling is available. So how do you, if you don't understand that Nebraska has defined gambling different from everybody else, then you might say it has no casinos, but it certainly does if you use the more common definition. See, Slot Machine Wins by Chico. Is there like a name I can call you? If you, don't define things properly, if you use some different kind of definition, yours, mine's, theirs, if it's just misunderstood, then you come across as misunderstood. So moving further west, 2 tribal casinos are shown as open in Box Elder and Azure, both in Montana. Further west, there are 2 tribal casinos open in Idaho. One is here's another name, Too Many Vowels. Well, it's not too many vowels. It's just too many vowels for me. Kootenai River in Bonners Ferry, and the popular Coeur d'Alene. My French is terrible. In Worley, not far from the border to Washington. So you might have heard about that being open. Certainly, we've gotten a lot of community stuff, activity from Washington about this Idaho community casino. So that completes our tour of the U.S. for open casinos. Overall, far more tribal casinos are open than commercial casinos. The largest concentration of open casinos are in Oklahoma and the state of Washington. But remember, this online tool is live, so it only shows open casinos and not about to open casinos, Nebraska excluded. Our slots communities appear to be a much better place to find information on upcoming reopenings. That's just another reason to join your state's slots community, especially as much as more and more states slowly open some of their casinos. Casinos aren't reopening as fast as they close. I think everybody is aware of this, but I want to make this point because I think it matters. What was it? Over less than 2 weeks that all casinos shut down in mid to late March. Well, we're seeing reopenings happen a lot slower and not all at once for any given state. Oklahoma started opening, I think it was probably first, and only 25% of their casinos, and they have over 100 of them, depending on how you count them. Again, definitions. So, as much as we talk about it, they're only 25% open. So to keep up with this dynamic activity. Whether or not your state has reopened casinos, you can find out about when they might be open, because everybody, we're slots enthusiasts. Okay. We have inside information. Well, it's not technically inside information. We have, we're members of players clubs, and we get information and we share it. And so even just about reopenings, soft opens, invite only openings, that sort of thing. So that's how to find out about that on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, whenever you want to. Go to your state by state community. I think it will help you. So as promised, I'm going to go back to the live chat and see where that's at. Lots of comments. That's great. Let's see. Yes, Frank in New York, if I remember correctly, can't wait for Atlantic City, New Jersey to open their casinos. He needs to win some money. Yeah, we're all feeling the burn, man. We're all feeling the burn. Scott says, when I start back, I am taking a small notebook to keep track of dollars going in and what I come out with, date and time. Don't forget to put in the casino. Maybe you only go to one casino, but that's what you need. Right. Yeah. The win-loss statement is the IRS says, great, have it, but it's not enough. It doesn't have the necessary information to actually do gambling records. But if you have gambling records and you also want to provide the win-loss statement, they say, it's partial proof of the gambling records being accurate, like maybe your bank deposit slips would be. And that's, they're not primary. Win-loss statements are not primary. They can't be. They don't have the information that the IRS wants. Dave, win-loss statements can be depressing sometimes. Ain't that the truth? And to Slot Machine Wins by Chico, I'm just doing a bit of pattern recognition, and thank you, Slot Machine Wins by Chico. I'm glad that you're here, and thank you so much for your contribution. Much appreciated. Denise, yeah, that's Denise has got it right. Yeah, I don't mean to jump on you. Slot Machine Wins by Chico. Just been, as we grow, we're entering new eras, and I am highly protective on our slots community's website, everywhere. I'm highly protective. I've made promises to my audience, and people don't have to. People don't actually have to cross a line for me to start worrying about them. Thank you, Steve. Says he's watching some videos on YouTube. Why is my cat playing? Now I have another cat playing with the other end of this. Great. I won't try to pick him up, because we know what happened last time with that, those of you who listened before. So Steve says, I was watching some videos on YouTube in Deadwood, South Dakota, and seen some patterns on first spin bonuses happening. A couple were jackpots, and then some didn't pay anything. That was on live play. Right. I know we've been putting, a month now, into casino reopenings, and before that, I think casino closings, maybe 4 or 5 shows now. Right. Into the reopenings, and before that, the closings. But that's the sort of thing we want to talk about normally, which is, what patterns are you seeing? One of the things that I talk about is, every casino sets up their slot machines differently, including some not setting them up at all. And some have a taste that you can capture, and you look at my 5-pull method for that. But it isn't you. I mean, you need to understand what the approach is, but it isn't you making it happen. It's you checking the casino to see if they are doing it. You can't make them do it, and you don't know if they've done it unless somebody reports it on the slots community or this YouTube video. In which case you say, "Aha!" It's like looking at one of the 5 states that have slot machine denominations by casino. Well, just slot machine denominations, because there's 5 that do that and others that do less. And if you find a 98% return statistic, the actual, on a particular slot machine, and there's only 4 of them, at that casino, like I did when I went to North Kansas City, Harrah's in North Kansas City in December. They have, you can find them and play them because you saw that, consistently in the last 4 months, they were high. Now, if you're a statistician, you'll know that it isn't because, you can't make future predictions on random data, on older random data, but this isn't random. This is a casino setup. All right. When you start understanding that casinos have something that they can do, then you look for it. And there's a bunch. That's what my winning slots strategies are about, to see check your casino if they do that. Right. So I'm glad, not to go too long about this, I'm glad you watched that video on YouTube from Deadwood, South Dakota. I'm glad that you saw that pattern. I wonder if anybody else saw it. Is it possibly because I mentioned patterns exist that made you go, that's a pattern? Because that, when I walk into casinos and, I know all the patterns that I know and been looking for them for a couple of years now, and I'm getting better at spotting them. Some can only be spotted if you're a local at the casino because you have to come back. But sometimes a lot of them you can, develop an eye, an observational ability, and do exactly what you just did only by walking into a casino. Yeah. Well done. Okay. I'm sorry. There's a joke there. Slot machine wins by Chico. Just Chico. So I call you Chico or just Chico. Sorry, just trying to be friendly. Steve, I think some of the machines were idle for some time. It was not very busy from what I could tell. See, he's now referring to another, basically a sort of a corollary to the 5-pull method. And he wonders, right? And that's the sort of thing you could check out if you were there, but you can't really, if they didn't notice on the video, then you can't really do anything about it. So, you make a list of all the different possibilities and you go into a casino like I do when I go into a casino and say, right. So not this one. That's a maybe. This is a definite, and you just look for them. And sometimes every 10th visit, I go, oh, that's a new one. I should look into that. Maybe write an article about it. So, I like, for instance, on the 5-pull method, which very briefly is to make 5 bets on a slot machine. Stop if you win anything at all. On the first bet, you win anything at all, stop. And for this method, and then move on. Because the idea in the 5-pull method is to collect what the casinos are doing is they're giving you a taste. They're going to give you a little win right there at the beginning, and then they want you to spend all that and whatever you brought with you. All right. So I say, don't. I say, stop right then and collect the taste on the next slot machine, and the test on the next slot machine, and the test on the taste. And you collect tastes. Now you might say, well, that's really not that much money, but you know where I learned this? I learned this in a high limit slot room. All right. And these tastes, they were hundreds or thousands of dollars. So, and casinos that do this don't just do it. It's not any particular, it's all slot machines. And I'm like, well, if I can confirm it on a penny machine, making 1 penny bets or, something where I'm not spending much money, and it works like a charm because to best of my data collection at this point, it's about 1 in 3 casinos do this. Why am I not walking over to the high limit room? There might be 10 or 25 machines there, and you can only do it 10 or 25 machines, but it ain't no $10 that you're winning. All right. So that's part of it. Wise Virgin, this is again definitions. I think I would have, Richard asks, does my book go into pattern recognitions? I went thoroughly over pattern recognition. I just didn't use those words because they're threatening. Oh, pattern recognition. I couldn't do that. You mean I could try pulling the machine, making 5 bets and then stopping before I get to 5 if I win anything at all? I can do that. But pattern recognition, I can't do. Right. So when I was teaching physics, there's difficult concepts, complex, not easy, but you can explain them so people understand. Kinetic coefficient of friction, static coefficient of friction. This is all crazy talk, right? It's not even calculus, but it's still crazy talk. And so I would say, well, how when a bus stops, this is a town where everybody rode the bus. How a bus stops, you come to a halt and it goes, that's what I'm talking about. And they come back later and they say, wow, I was just on the bus and it did that. And I thought about physics. So yeah, pattern recognition, but I don't have to call it that. And it's not a good idea my task is to help people. It is not to incorrectly make myself seem smarter or something. I am trying to help people. Yeah, but it's all pattern recognition. Well, so much of this is. You want me to highlight the book? Just print it in yellow. I'm being facetious, but big part of it. So Joe, seriously, the other thing I want to say, because I'm talking more and more about the business and it's the direction that I'm going, we're not static here. I'm moving forward. So every time we have one of these, like a clock moving, it's going to be hours later before you know it. I tell you guys everything, right? You want to win, ask a question. I will tell you what works. And I will also say, what did Chip Barron say in an email after last week? What did you say, Chip? You said, I am a realist, right? I don't make grandiose statements. I don't say, hey, I've won millions. And, there's these people, it's just crazy. They'll come to you and they'll try to take advantage. And it's like a knife to the heart. I've won millions and millions of dollars playing slots. I would have thought that you would have figured that out. And I'm like, really? I'm talking to a millionaire. I don't think so. I wish, we all wish, and the more of a gambling addiction we have, the more we wish that. I explain how it is. What I know, what I figured out, and I figured out quite a bit, I suspect. There's more to figure out, but the 5-pull method, you find a casino that does that. That's all you ever have to do to make money. But then maybe you want to know another one. Maybe that casino gets bought by somebody else. And that new management says, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do the thing we did at the other casinos that we own. And then, so maybe you need to know more than the 5-pull method. But if it works at your casino, you're done, right? Off you go. But sometimes we want to know more than that because we can save money with money management, and we can save, even with the 5-pull method. And I've also seen that casinos that do the 5-pull method will sometimes slowly step away from it. That it still worked, but the amounts in the high limit room that I was at, just month after month, it was just less, because it was great for the casino. But slots enthusiasts who think about playing slots, and they will notice these things. And Scott makes a good point. Why 5 pulls? I picked that because I thought it was a good compromise. Its taste is usually in the first 5 pulls, but sometimes in the first 10, but sometimes it isn't. So your profit may be a little bit less if you went to 10. But on the other hand, maybe 6 is a better number. Scott uses 6. So, you have to decide whether it's 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. I call it 5, but it's adjustable if you really get into it. Thank you, Chico. Let's see. He says, loves the videos. Keep up the good work. You too. Dave says, wouldn't it be the same, though, as doing 5 spins, cashing out, and then put money in again in 5 more pulls? That's 2 different winning strategies. And sometimes the casino does both. Sometimes they only do one. Sometimes idle machines win. Sometimes 5-pull, the taste idea, is what they do. Sometimes they do both. So this is, for the most popular, most widespread winning slots strategy, maybe you take a moment and figure out which one it is, because then if you say, take your card out, wait, and put it for a second, put the card back in. Well, maybe you should wait 5 minutes, because the winning slot strategy about the idle machines really does depend. Is it half a day? Is it until about noon on Sunday from whenever people left at 4 a.m. on Saturday, or earlier? Or is it 5 minutes? And I've gone over and over this. There's certain things happen when you pull the card out, but certain things happen if you wait an hour, and certain things happen that when you wait 6 hours. And all this is kind of parameters that the casino has at hand. And I don't want you to make the assumption that two things are going on at once when only one is, because I want you to win the profit. And it's not hard to check. It's very cheap. And so, I hope you understand that this stuff is meant for the thinking person, right? So anyway, we can talk about that more sometime. Let's get back to this. Right. So Steve says most of the guys were betting $12.50 either on nickels, max bet, or dimes, high roller bets, but should work on any bet. Yes, that's the thing. Almost all there are some winning strategies where you would at most find 3 winning slot machines. You remember when I talked about this before? 3 winning slot machines at a casino. All right, at most 3, if any, at most 3. But there are one, and might be another one, one that is on all slot machines, either doing it or not doing it, is the 5 pull method. Anyway, I hope this isn't too complicated. You want to win, So, and the biggest problem that we have, is this is not how people think about winning at slots. It's only been possible since 2012, and even then it was only the upgraded casinos. But by now, everything but the riverboat casinos have been upgraded. So check. It's cheap to check. If it's not there, I'm sorry. If it is there, enjoy. Right. So I'm going to, right. Yeah. Golden rule. There's comments here about how much bankroll, depends on your bankroll, that sort of thing. Golden rule, right? Don't bet more than you can comfortably afford to lose. And stick with that. You can do high limit if you can pay for high limit, but it's also the 5 pull method is the cheapest way to pay high limit. But it still costs money. And make sure you check out a low limit before you move to high limit, but it's an easy next step. Okay, so there's a crazy number of comments going on in the Oklahoma community. We've got a few minutes left, and I'm hoping that, Oklahoma has always been very active. I mentioned a couple weeks ago when they got to 200 members, right? Now, 285, but more have come in since we've been chatting here for almost an hour. So they're just going by leaps and bounds. I think partly because 25% of their casinos reopened and people want to know stuff, partly because of this video and other things that I've done previously. So it's a very active group, and I'm also seeing that with Washington, and I'm also seeing that with several others of the communities, and some are very quiet. Who was it that was from New York? Frankie? I think you joined, your name sounds familiar, joined the New York one, but what is that all about? They listen. Nobody talks. They just listen. I used to live in Connecticut, so I kind of recognize some of this. Right. So Oklahoma had a Lucky Star Conco. Pronunciations are, I should look these things up beforehand. The entranceway security guard at Lucky Star Conco tested positive for the virus, and he was one of the people that more or less was doing temperature checks. And there was a comments, emotional. People worry about what, I passed within, less than 6 feet from somebody, reached out their hand and shown a device onto my forehead. They were inches away. What the heck? And most of the comments were not pleased with the casino for not shutting down. But we can talk about whether or not that would be the best idea, etc. But it's all very, I'm not a medical professional to really, I have my own opinions, but they're just personal opinions about whether or not I'm in Ohio. I have restrictions on my day job where I can't travel unless perhaps I go into self-quarantine just in case, because I'm an essential employee and we do stuff having to do with aviation that matters about keeping that going. And so I can't go to a casino. I mean, there might be one open some week in June in Michigan. We'll see. I'd love to go, but I got things I can't risk. Anyway, that's personal decisions for all of us, right? So Washington Slots Community has had, I'm going to quickly get through these. Washington Slots Community has come back with, seems like everything's tight. They're not really doing what Oklahoma was. Seems like Oklahoma's odds of winning, there's 2, if you win, how much you win. And Oklahoma seems to bump up the first or maybe leave it the same, but drop how much you won. So a lot of people were winning, but they weren't winning a lot. And that went over great. Okay. Then they shut it down after the casino had opened every day after about 4 hours. That was the pattern that so many people had talked about in Oklahoma. Washington, it's tight right from the get-go. In fact, there's more detail there if you're interested and want to join, because Washington has its own little gaming regulations and casinos are taking advantage of it. And people who know their machines are like, what? I can't, geez, the gall. In Wisconsin's got some stuff coming up. I mostly mentioned that. And I mentioned Nebraska and definitions there and what all that means. So we'll quickly check the live chat and say planting season. Okay. Steve says, thanks. Talk amongst yourselves, ask what other people think. It's a great example of what we're seeing in the slots communities, only the slots community might have 300 people here, talking to one another. And certainly everybody here now is here on a holiday weekend. So great. Appreciate everybody's responses here. All right, so Scott says we need an index to follow for next show, something we can see to comment on when the show starts. I have to think about what you mean by that. Could you send me an email, explain what you mean by that? We need an index to follow for next show, something we can see to comment on when the show starts. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. So Scott, we're posted where? Posted on YouTube? Oh, you want me to do like a pre-video? Talk about, hey, I have an online show. It's on Saturdays. And this next Saturday will be this. And just do like a 30-second, minute-long video. If you think that'll work, is that done? I'm all for it. If it helps people, I'll look into that. Excellent. So please, everybody, have fun, be safe, and, make good choices. And Dave, I won't forget, I'm working on it. He wants to know about the shirts. I'm going to get one in and wear it on a show, and you'll probably be the first you see of it. I'm trying to set up someplace where you can buy them. I can buy them, but yep. All right. All right. We've got at least 2 people saying pre-videos, recorded videos to let people know. Will do. The next one for next week will be, I'll set it up momentarily and it'll just sit there. And so you could start commenting now if you wanted to, or start commenting in half an hour. But I got to build it and stuff. So yeah, pre-video. Excellent. And we're over. A 15-minute preview? Nobody's going to want a 15-minute. They say the longest a video should be, unless you're live, is 8 minutes. And even then, that's a long, long time. I will do a preview. And we will, of the specified length of all the experts that I've heard. And then we'll see. We'll see. I'll look into it. The first one won't be the best one. 6 months later, we'll be doing great. But it's an excellent suggestion, and we'll grow on it. Sal's here. I know I'm going over. If you need to leave, that's fine. Sal says is here from Massachusetts. Waxwoods and Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, scheduled to open June 1st. Every other machine activated per their update. Great. Good to know. Oh, Scott wants a live 15-minute preview. I don't have to think about that because I don't see how it could be a preview. I could have a live video that would be 2 live videos a week where the first one says there's a longer one later. I got to figure out how all this works together, but I'll think about it seriously, Scott. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll see if I can make it work with all the other boulders that I'm juggling. All right. I'm over. First time that I'm over. Have fun. Be safe. Make good choices. Bye. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. This is the second segment of the show on slot machine casino gambling. Here, I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district, emphasizing by far anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Up next is New York slot machine casino gambling in 2020. Here goes. New York slot machine casino gambling consists of 11 tribal casinos, 8 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, 4 casino resorts, and 2 nearby Canadian casinos. A theoretical payout limit exists for 7 Class 3 tribal casinos. Return statistics are publicly available from the 8 racetracks with slot machines and the 4 casino resorts. The minimum legal gambling age in New York depends upon the gambling activity. For land-based casinos, it's either 21, 19, or 18. Poker rooms, it's 21, and bingo, the lottery, and pari-mutuel wagering, it's 18. The legal gambling age is 21 for casinos owned by the Seneca Nation of Indians, but 18 for other casinos in New York. At Canadian casinos in the province of Ontario, the minimum legal gambling age is 19. For the province of Quebec, it's 18. Until 1993, tribal casinos in the state of New York had only Class II bingo halls. That year, the St. Regis Mohawk tribe negotiated a state tribal compact for Class III Vegas-style slot machines. As a result, all Class III tribal casinos have video lottery terminals, VLTs, controlled by the New York State Lottery. While these electronic games appear to be typical video slot machines, the results of a bet are instead determined off-site by a central lottery system. Next up is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. state and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. In the state of New York, it is legal to own a slot machine privately if it is 30 years old or older. Created in 2012, the New York State Gaming Commission has merged with the New York State Division of Lottery and the New York State Racing and Wagering Board. Currently, this commission regulates all aspects of gaming activity in the state of New York, including charitable gaming. In this section, I discuss New York gambling establishments. There are 11 tribal casinos, 8 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, and 4 casino resorts in the state of New York. The largest casino in New York is Empire City Casino at Yonkers Raceway with 5,300 gaming machines. The second largest casino is Resorts World Casino, New York City, with 4,995 gaming machines. The state of New York has an extraordinary gaming industry because of the many types of casinos available to its residents. New York has tribal casinos with and without tribal compacts, casino resorts, racinos, cruise ships, and even readily accessible international casinos just across the border to Canada. As usual, when there are too many casinos to mention here, a complete list of the 8 commercial racetracks with slot machines and 4 commercial casino resorts are available on my webpage for this state at ProfessorSlots.com/NY. the 7 tribal casinos with Class 2 Vegas-style slot machines and the 4 tribal casinos with Class 2 bingo-style competitive gaming machines in New York are at professorslots.com/ny. As an alternative to enjoying New York slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in a nearby state. Bordering New York is, to the north, the Canadian provinces of Ontario and Quebec, to the east, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont, and to the south and west, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. To visit any of my articles on these U.S. states, simply visit professorslots.com followed by its 2-letter postal designation. For example, my Connecticut slots article is available at professorslots.com/CT. Canadian casinos are across the international border from the state of New York in the Niagara Falls region near Buffalo, as well as in Montreal near upstate New York. Otherwise, cruise ships with onboard casinos depart from the New York Manhattan Cruise Terminal for international destinations. Are you interested in sharing and learning with other slots enthusiasts in New York? If so, join our New York Slots community at Facebook at professorslots.com/FBNY. All you'll need is a Facebook profile to join this private Facebook group freely. There, you'll be able to privately share your slots experiences as well as chat with players about slots gambling in or near New York. Again, use this convenient link I've created to go directly to our group on Facebook, professorslots.com/FBNY. Join us. Each casino type in New York has its own gaming regulations, so theoretical payout limits and return statistics have several varieties. I'll review them. Class 2 competition-style gaming machines at tribal casinos are subject to the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which does not set payout limits nor require public reporting of return statistics. Class 3 Vegas-style slot machines at tribal casinos are subject to tribal state compacts only. In New York, these VLTs are controlled off-site by the New York State Lottery. These VLTs have a minimum theoretical payout limit of 92%. No return statistics are publicly available. Commercial casino resorts do not have theoretical payout limits. Return statistics are publicly available as weekly and monthly reports. See the Commercial Gaming Reports tab at the New York State Gaming Commission. Commercial racetracks with video slot machines also do not have theoretical payout limits. Return statistics are, however, publicly available as weekly and monthly reports. See the Video Gaming Reports tab at the New York State Gaming Commission. Regarding monthly return statistics for the commercial sites, player win percentage is available only after performing a simple calculation. Specifically, divide credits won by credits played, and then multiply the result by 100% to get player win percent. In my blog article at professorslots.com/NY, I've calculated the monthly player win percent for February 2020 for the 4 casino resorts and the 8 racinos. In February 2020, the highest return for a casino resort was at Diego Downs with 91.6%, while the lowest return was at Del Lago with 90.4%. Also in February 2020, the highest return for a pari-mutuel racino was at Nassau Downs at Resorts World New York City with 97.4%, while the lowest return was at Hamburg Gaming with 91.5%. For the same month, the overall state total was 94.1%. In summary, New York slot machine casino gambling consists of 11 tribal casinos, 8 racinos, 4 casino resorts, multiple cruise ships sailing out of New York City to international destinations, and 2 nearby casinos across the border to Canada. VLTs at Class 3 tribal casinos have a minimum theoretical payout of 92%. None of the tribal casinos offer return statistics, but casino resorts and racinos have weekly and monthly reports available online. Over the last year, there has been little change to the slots gaming industry in the state of New York. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is a live stream Q&A session on YouTube. Remember, my weekly Q&A session on YouTube is on Saturdays from 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Bring whatever slots questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. An easy-to-remember link to my YouTube channel is professorslots.com/live. Feel free to stop by anytime during my hour-long Q&A. To suggest a topic or ask a question, which might end up as a blog article or on a podcast episode, email it to john@professorslots.com, where John is spelled Jon. Part 2 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. state of North Carolina. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes of this episode are on my website at professorslots.com/episode 92. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Bye.